Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to Showmakers Show, where we bring creativity to life.
Yeah, I think,
Plan ahead.
yeah, planning's always good. I think if you can try two different things on a job, but still get the job done in a way it's going to make the client happy, I think that's fine. But yeah, again, if you can certainly try new things, it doesn't hurt to try new things. And you never know because most clients may not have thought of how you wanted to do it. So you can certainly show them. And if I'm on a job, I will, if the client's there, then I will constantly sort of show them, this is what I've taken so far. Are you happy with this? Is this the sort of thing you're after? And then you can just kind of, if they're happy with that, then you can kind of go down that route for the rest of the shoot if you need to as well. So it's quite handy.
Do you remember your first professional work? How did you plan it? Were you nervous?
Yeah, very vividly remember it, actually. Going back to when I used to post stuff on Facebook, my hobby stuff, I had a friend who worked in a venue in Bournemouth, and they were looking for someone to sort of just capture. It was a nightclub, so they were looking for someone to just capture what was going on. It was all for promotional sort of purposes for Facebook and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. So he approached me, asked me if I'd ever shot anything like what he'd wanted, the nightlife stuff. I said I hadn't, but I was happy to give it a go. He then explained, how much he'd pay me, and then it all sort of became a bit real. Like I just agreed to do my first, professional job, and I suppose, like with most stuff at the time, you think, yeah, great, and then when it gets closer to it, then the nerves kind of, get going a little bit, I guess. And yeah, I remember the first night doing it. It was I got there early, and I think I just kind of stood around nervously for a little bit, not really knowing what to do. And then you think you just gotta get on with it. I think certainly for me, photography's kind of brought me out of my shell a little bit, because you kind of have to be a certain way. You don't have to be super outgoing. You don't have to be the loudest person in the room, but you kind of need to. It gives you a little bit of confidence because it pushes you beyond your sort of comfort zone a little bit, and not in a bad way. I think it just gives you that confidence to, get done what you need to get done. I think so.
And how do you think your first work has shaped your career?
Well, I mean, I'm still, maybe sort of 15 years later, I'm still shooting like live gigs and all that sort of stuff. I really loved the whole atmosphere of that, live music, and you're in a place where people are there having a good time, so you get that sort of energy, and you kind of go along with it, and you're having a good time as well. And yeah, so it's always stuck with me, yeah, I still love it now. So I'll always shoot kind of live music.
And when you're doing the thing that you did 15 years ago for the first time, do you think back to the mistakes that you've made?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, I try not to look too much at some of the older stuff I was doing, because in my head at the time, I was just doing the best I could, and I thought, that was good. But I think it's good. Yeah, it's good to look back and kind of see how far you've come. I think sometimes I can certainly, there's certainly a degree of improvement, I would say, from my first job to what I'm doing now. And a lot of that comes down to having better kit as well, because any money I would get, I would reinvest it into better equipment and stuff like that. So I think that's a nice kind of look back as well, what you started with to what you're there doing now. So.
And out of all the ones that you've done, which one was the challenging shoot that have you done?
So I shoot weddings as well. Luckily, I shoot with a friend who's another fantastic photographer, so that kind of takes the pressure off a little bit. But weddings are a challenge. They are, they're all day. You could start 7 o'clock in the morning, and you could still be shooting at sort of 10, 11 o'clock at night. So it's a really long day. And again, I think the challenging aspect of wedding photography is, again, you've got a couple of moments to get the right photo at the right time, so you kind of really have to be on that, and that can be a challenge sometimes, because sometimes you're not the only photographer. But if I'm there with a friend, we have that discussion of where we're going to be, but the couple may have hired a videographer, so you've got to work around those people. You've got to work around registrars or vicars and that sort of stuff. You've got to kind of not be intrusive. You've got to kind of be there, but be kind of just sort of fade into the background and not be intrusive. Yeah, so it's kind of, I've always found those the most sort of challenging.
What's your take on the ongoing debate between digital and film photography?
I've always used a digital camera. I've never really experimented too much with film. I know friends who have had film cameras. So yeah, I don't know. I think with especially like nowadays, I think digital is good for a quick turnaround. And obviously a lot of stuff is digital and everything's online, so it kind of needs to be digital. I think film is fantastic, and you probably won't ever replicate what a photo looks like, with digital. I think digital can be a little bit too clinical sometimes. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think you need to have a background in film to be a good photographer by any means. I don't think so.
Do you have any tips for the new photographers who are trying to sharpen their technical sides of photography?
Practice, everything. If you've got a certain style that you want to go down, just keep practicing. Keep, I found, there's a lot of online resources as well to watch. People made videos about. I guarantee that somebody will have made a video on the type of photography you want to do, and you can get different points of view from watching these videos and things. So just go out there and do it. Even if it's not a paid job, if you can get a friend, if you want to do like fashion stuff like we were talking about, get a friend and just take them out and just practice. Really, I think it's the best way to do it. I think.
And has the way of marketing your work and finding clients, has it changed over the time? How was it when you started, and how is it now?
I think from when I first started, I kind of sort of fairly unknown because it was it was new. And I think the more I did it, I have a lot of business from word of mouth, certainly locally. It's obviously really important to have a website, even things like an Instagram page or whatever. Just any way you can sort of market yourself and get yourself out there. I think without being too pushy as well. You don't want to be kind of spamming people with it. But if you've got like a nice regular kind of output of what you're doing, updates on what you're doing. People will see that, I think, and hopefully they'll take notice and kind of hire you, I guess, at the end of the day. But I'm okay at marketing myself a little bit, but I think you could always probably do a little bit more, maybe, or I could at least anyway. I think so.
When marketing yourself on Instagram, is there a certain style of posting reels or posting pictures?
I think I'd always just do pictures, really. Maybe just like a few photos from a shoot, and then a description underneath, kind of what you're up to. I think when people who haven't hired you before want to see what you're doing, I think it's so important for them to have some reference of what you do. And I think if you keep that constant and keep that updated so they can see what you're doing, I think that goes a long way as well, so they can see your style, and maybe even sometimes if you can, I would never probably do this, but if you could appear, if you did like a reel or something, where you were showing what you do and they could get a sense of your personality as well, I think that would probably go a long way to maybe them hiring you as well.
And when you start your own website, so it is also part of marketing. So is it advisable to put all the pictures there, or to maintain a level of curiosity there?
Yeah,
do you advise?
I think so. I think I think a small highlight of what you've done rather than everything you've done. So if you maybe pick out 2 to 5 photos from a job you've done that you're really happy with, that showcase what you've done on that job, I think that goes a long way than posting a massive album that probably no one's going to look through. People want, especially with social media, they want a kind of instant, this is what's going on, this is what this person does, or this is what's happened, and they'll judge, I think, more on that than a whole massive album online, I think. And if they want that, you could always show that to them if they approach you and they want more images from something or more examples of what you've done. Then you can maybe send it to them sort of privately somehow. I guess.
If they're interested.
Yeah, if they're interested in hiring you, yeah, if they ask, so yeah.
Earlier we were talking about you did a shoot with helicopter and stuff. So how did you plan ahead for that shoot?
I was kind of, again, talking to the clients, figuring out exactly what the logistics of that was going to be. A lot of the planning behind that was through, they sort of planned it with the airport, and it was like a private hire helicopter company, I believe. I don't know if they knew somebody there or they just spoke to somebody there. So there was obviously a bit of planning that goes in before that, mainly on their side, I think, on this particular job. But they were sort of kept me informed along the way, exactly what we kind of were going to aim to get. And then obviously, because we were on the actual runway itself, we were sort of past security, there were considerations for that. We had to obviously conduct yourself in a certain way, be as professional as you could do, be on the day. So yeah, there was quite a bit that went into it. But again, when you sort of bring everything together and you plan everything, it all sort of comes together really. So yeah.
And the way of handling the equipments, did it change when you're doing that particular work?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think I kind of tried to be as minimal as possible, because I didn't have the opportunity to be swapping lenses and stuff like that. So it's good to prepare, know what you're about to shoot and get ready for that. I think that's quite true of any sort of shooting like live music as well. You tend to only have kind of 3 songs with a live band when you're in the sort of photography pit at the front. And obviously you can't be going back to your camera bag, where your gear is, to swap lenses and things like that. So you kind of have to be prepared for that moment, I think. So yeah, it's good to always kind of think about what you're about to do and be ready for that, I think, as well.
So did you plan ahead the angles you'll be shooting, because it's a risky one? So the angles, and did you take a lot of photos to put in data so you could use later, or you had very less number of photographs? How was it?
Yeah, I didn't really know what the setup would be beforehand, so a lot of it was kind of on the fly almost a little bit, so I kind of had to make it up as I went along. We had plenty of room to work with, which was good because it's an airfield, it's quite open and spacious, but you kind of, yeah, I mean, I suppose with certain jobs there is an element of you can't know exactly what it's going to be, so again, being prepared, you can kind of deal with that situation when it's happening. But yeah, I kind of just tried to be really minimal with what I was using. Maybe use a lens that would have captured different, like kind of some, a sort of, I think I used a prime lens, but it was quite a wide prime lens, so I could, if I needed to, I could get quite close. But again, if I backed off a little bit, I could sort of get everything in if I needed to. So it's just considerations like that, I think, really, that sort of thing.
And what do you think about the future of photography in this ever-changing digital era?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's interesting with, obviously, AI is now a massive thing, and I can only imagine it's going to continue to be, even with consumer software now, like Lightroom, like Photoshop, it's got AI built into it now, and generative AI as well, so you can generate something on your work that's not even on there. And it's kind of scary how accurate it can be with what it produces. I would hope there's always going to need a human element to certain things with photography. Yeah, I think it's kind of, hopefully AI would be more of an assistant rather than, a help rather than a hindrance. I think AI will help with post-processing in, kind of helping with maybe reduced noise or sharpness, that sort of stuff. And it will hopefully be a help rather than a hindrance in the long run, hopefully.
It should not be on the front line.
Yeah, no. Definitely not. You still gotta have that person behind the camera, doing that shoot. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
And what's your advice for the new people who is trying to turn their hobby of photography into profession, how they can handle with the new changing digital era?
Yeah, I think it's really worth thinking if it's something you really want to do, because I went from a hobby to professional and it kind of changed the way I saw photography. So I think if it's something you really, really want to do as a job, then 100% go for it. I know for certain people it's kind of not to sort of dwell on any negatives, but it took away from that hobby side, and that when you tend to have a hobby, it's something you love, and I think when it becomes a business, it changes your love for it slightly. It doesn't go away as such, but it's in a different light because you're using it to make money and sort of live and survive and stuff. But if it's something you want to do, then 100% go for it. I mean, I've been in situations I would never have got into, and been in some really cool locations and travelled and, met some really cool people like musicians and stuff like that with it. And so, yeah, I would say 100% go for it if it's something you really want to do. Maybe don't expect it to be as it was when it was a hobby. But it's certainly a very cool industry to be in, I think.
How do you think they can handle the digital side of it, the new AI and everything?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really need it. I don't think, it's nice to have it there for if you've taken an image and you want something removed, for instance. It's got like, it can be aware of what content you're trying to remove, and then it can, I've edited some images with, I think there was like a bin in the background I wanted to get rid of, and you just kind of paint over it using AI, and then a couple of clicks and it's gone, and it's like it was never there. But I wouldn't ever rely on it to, it's nice to have it in an emergency, I guess, but I just, I think you certainly don't need it. I think you can do everything you need to do with a camera and just, fairly basic editing software if you need to, I think.
So you don't have to be intimidated by the new AI?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's something that's going to be here, I guess, from now on. But I don't think it's ever going to replace the person behind the camera. I don't think ever. I don't think so.
And how do you think photography has changed the way you view your personal life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe going back to what I was saying, I think because it brings you out of yourself a little bit, it sort of forces you to come out of your shell a little bit. I think that probably, hopefully, comes across to friends and family and, just people you come across generally, I guess. I feel really lucky to have been in some of the situations I've been in before with photography. And I always had like a little saying in my head that my shutters open doors, with the shut and open sort of play on words there. And it's been great. So it's kind of, I think it's made me more of a, I don't know, just sort of more confident, outgoing person, I think, maybe. Because you've got to take control of certain situations, and it's good, it's kind of, you got to get your voice out there and get what you need from the shoot, I guess.
Yeah. And we were talking about the work-life balance, and how do you find the balance there with the like really busy shoots and everything?
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta, again, I think you just gotta kind of say, like pick what you do. Again, when you're first starting out, it might seem crazy to say no to stuff, but I think you kind of need to say no to certain things, because if you take too much on, you're going to burn out, and that's not good for anyone, So, yeah.
And what do you think makes a person an unsuccessful photographer?
Sorry.
What do you think an unsuccessful photographer is? What makes them an unsuccessful?
I think anyone is maybe too rigid, unwilling to kind of change from how they see something should be done. I think you need to be kind of really flexible with things, because, when you're working with certain clients, they're not going to want it done your way. They're going to want it done their way. And if you can overcome, it's not even really, you're not really sort of selling out. It's just you're kind of, you're doing your job well. You're being professional. You're getting the job done, I think. And, anyone, I've worked with a few photographers who haven't been successful, and you can kind of see why. They're just kind of, I don't know, like I was saying, they're just too rigid and stuck in what they want to do and how they want to do it. I just think you've got to be open-minded and really flexible to things. I think so.
We're moving towards the end of this interview. So what's next for you? Do you have any exciting plans that's going to happen?
Yeah, I mean, there's a few things coming up. I do a lot of work with Subaru, especially at the old fire station in Bournemouth. I shoot a lot of their events there and the live music. So that's all kind of starting to pick up again soon as we roll back into September. And I do a lot for the university itself. I work with the sports department as well in Bournemouth Uni. So yeah, there's a lot of that sort of thing coming up really, which I quite enjoy. There's always really cool stuff happening at the uni and sort of outside the uni. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to coming up, I think, really.
Yeah. Oh, something that I forgot to ask to you. We were talking about how you like wildlife and how you love taking pictures in the New Forest. Do you mind sharing some experiences in this?
Yes. One thing that I really wanted to capture, me and my friend, there are fallow deer that are in the New Forest. And each year during the mating season, they do a thing called it's the deer rut. So you'll see the big males sort of going at each other. You can hear them sort of bellowing from quite a distance away. And we always wanted to go and get some shots of the big stags kind of, locking antlers and really going at each other, which me and my friend did one day. We spent it must have been about an hour kind of moving in on this large stag's sort of territory. And another stag came out of the forest and they started fighting. And it's just a display of kind of, I'm more powerful than you are and, I want this area sort of thing. But just to be sort of really close to that and be able to take photos of that was just the the power these things have when they're locking horns and they're really sort of going at each other. It was just amazing to be near that. It was really cool.
Do you have your own secret tips for approaching wildlife?
I think you just got to be kind of really, really patient with it. I think maybe 9 times out of 10 you'll go out and not get what you want. So persistence, I think, is a good one with wildlife. Doing research, before you go somewhere to see what you're likely to see and what time of year is good to go there. So it's just kind of, I think be prepared to not get anything most of the time, but the odd time you get that one photo, it's just kind of worth it, really. So really cool.
That's everything
Okay, cool.
I have for you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for coming on our show.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
We learned a lot about photography
Good.
and how planning is important.
Massive.
Some people just go at it spontaneously, thinking that they'll get the right pictures.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
planning
yeah.
is always important. We learned that from you, and I
Yes,
think
thank you.
that's going to help a lot of people
Good.
who really want to get into photography.
Good.
What do you think about our show, and how was the experience with us?
It's been amazing. Yeah, thank you. It's been very professional and great questions. Like hopefully, people watching this and listening to this will have an idea of what it's like. It's not easy. It's not easy by any means, but if you really want it and you're persistent, you'll get there with it for sure. So yeah, definitely. You've been great. Thank you. Really
you.
good.
Alex. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. No worries. Thank you.
Nice one. Thank you.
All good.